We exist to dispel myths. We exist to disprove there's a talent shortage. We exist to advance talent. We exist to advance diverse talent. We exist to reduce barriers. We exist to close the prosperity gap. We exist to make Milwaukee a region of choice for all. We exist. Well, what's going on, good people? It is the September edition of Wellness Check Wednesday. I can't even believe I'm saying it's September, because it's the end of September. But nonetheless, here we are for Wellness Check Wednesday, brought to you by the We Exist community. Our subject today is identity crisis. First and foremost, thank you to the gentlemen of Aurora WDC for keeping us connected, as well as to our partners that allow us to put these conversations on every single month. From ALUM to BMO, Elevation, Freighted, and the Medical College of Wisconsin, HPGM, Herzing University, Johnson Financial Group, the Milwaukee Business Journal, Northwestern Mutual, WEC Energy Group, and of course, the Woodruff Group. I have the distinct pleasure of introducing two phenomenal and amazing women. Many of you get to see every evening on TMJ4, our news anchor, Shannon Sims. I feel like I've known Shannon like my whole life. She's been a part of my life, very close. I get to travel with Shannon. Y'all get to just see her on TV. But just being able to share some very intimate sister girl moments these last 4 or 5 years, and it's been making my life tremendously richer. Then you have the one and only Element Everest-Blanks, who I've literally known probably all my life, going back to teen in my age, and I'm a long way from having teen in my age. So I have known the one and only Element Everest-Blanks forever. She currently leads and serves as media director, radio personality for Hyphen, the wife and spouse of one of my most favorite individuals on the planet. Back to our Black Elephant days, Cairo Communications. Just the massive media that you and Gerard have built, over time. Your voiceover work for Mickey D's. Just the list of accolades and accomplishments for both of you. I could go on and on, building up y'all and just talking how awesome y'all are, because y'all have definitely been enriching to my life. And so to say thank you doesn't sound like it's sufficient, but for two busy, amazing women to spend an hour with us in this community, I say thank you for that. Today is an interesting and personal conversation. So I know I have been, being a little bit vulnerable on my LinkedIn and social media posts, but it's real talk. And I'm excited to get into their journey and to listen and learn more of how they got to this place. But just to level set all of us here together today, for me, it's those moments growing up, and specifically in my professional career, when you're in the sidebar conversations, when folks start talking about going into their village. I had a colleague today, he's leaving for PTO, and they're like, oh, are you really taking PTO? Because, the new PTO is really just working remotely. Anyway, I hope y'all not doing that. Y'all for real take y'all PTO. He's like, no, actually this time, because of course he hadn't been doing it before. He said, this time I'm going home. I'm going to the family in Ireland and blah, 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 blah. And it's in those moments. And for those that have had the opportunity to know me for quite some time or get to know me through We Exist, it's very hard that I struggle with contributing to a conversation, But it has been historically that moment for me when I've engaged in conversations and people can deep dive to their Opa in the parish and in the village and that small German or Italian village. I can't add nothing to that conversation. So I've like retreated and I've pulled back and probably inadvertently dismissed myself, either literally or for sure symbolically and metaphorically. I left the conversation, even if I didn't actually leave the conversation. And then a few weeks ago, the pride that our Hispanic, specifically Mexican brothers and sisters had kicking off Hispanic Heritage Month all up and down South Cesar Chavez. And I actually saw some on the north side, so they done finally crossed the viaduct and came on over across the bridge. And they had their flags, and it was just so much pride and people honking at each other. And I was honking and smiling. And I'm not, of Mexican descent. But then, like, it got me thinking. Now, my parents have not done African ancestry, but they have done ancestry. My maiden name is Woodruff. I selfishly got it from my father because one of the founders of Coca-Cola's last name is Woodruff. So I got it for him one Christmas thinking like he could help me find some shares for Coca-Cola. But when my parents, got their results back, it's like 15 different countries, like as part of their makeup and composition of DNA. So as I'm driving, I'm like, dang, would 28 flags even fit on my car right now? Like, where do I even start? So this brings us to, like, clearly I have an identity crisis. Not even talking about Operation 2025 when my son leaves and goes on to college, and that's a whole nother layer of identity crisis. But today, understanding who we are, where we come from, and the role that plays, how we are navigating our personal and our professional careers and our personal lives. So I'm going to toss out an opening question to both of you. Feel free, whoever wants to answer first. But based on some of the things I just shared personally, do you feel that you had an identity crisis as it pertains to your specific African roots prior to your journey with African ancestry? So if you could come off of mute and answer that opening question.
Well, first, I'm going to say that if it wasn't for Element, I would have never gone down this journey of going and deep and digging deeper and diving deeper into my African ancestry. However, I had already had a very strong sense of self from knowing that I had come from the continent, but very much in my skin being a proud African American and knowing the struggles that my people who were currently here before my ancestors. So there, I had no identity crisis. I was blackity, blackity, black. Mm-hmm. Now I have this whole new, I want to say just a whole new appreciation for what that means to my lineage. I don't know about you now, Element. We both talked because of you, I was able to go down this journey, and I shared your journey on TMJ4, but you speak on it.
Well, as you know, Jasmine, our family, we have a African American history game where there's 556 facts on African American history. So I've never had this outward identity crisis. Part of the reason I think people who are really into Black history are into Black history is because we want some sense of ownership of identity. Mm-hmm. Even if our identity starts with the things that we had to overcome. Look, this gives us something to connect to and gives us some foundation of who we are. But there's always that lingering question in the back of our minds. Well, I can speak for myself. Where would I have been from? Who would my people have been? And for me, that question has lingered my entire life. My mother is one of 12. Her mother was back then when, you ain't have no choice. When you got pregnant, you was going to have a baby. I said, at a certain point where y'all just falling out because
right.
12 kids.
A baby of 12. Like a baby
one of 12. Right. So I have hundreds of cousins. And for us, this going down this journey was not just for me. This was for my entire family. And for me, this journey started when I got pregnant with my twin boys. And I said, I need to figure out what kind of lineage I need to leave my children, because I want them to know who they are. I don't want them to just know what we've accomplished as people on this continent. I want them to know who they are, what makes them up. And I was headed out to see Black Panther and there was some promo happening on the Breakfast Club. Right. And Charlemagne had brought in the lead actor for Black Panther. May he rest in peace. And I was watching him talk to Charlemagne about Charlemagne's DNA. And it was the exact same thing you said, Jasmine. Charlemagne was like, well, I'm from West Africa. And he was like, no, you took the wrong test. You need to take African ancestry, because if you take this test, it will tell you where you're from, who your tribe is, who your people are, the customs, the colors. And right then and there, I had made a decision to listen to our brother Chadwick Boseman and grab that test. It was that simple. Because if it's good enough for the Black Panther to figure out where he's from and he's presenting Wakanda to us, I wanted to have a little piece of my culture to pass on to my children. And it was that simple.
No, and I appreciate both of your answers. And just, point of clarification, like for me, and we all are speaking from our individual perspective. There's not an elements you really fine-tuned it and articulate for me, without question. Everybody know me. Like, I'm Black, I'm proud, African American, all of that good stuff. But it was that lingering, that unknown. And again, and maybe it's a fear of missing out and couldn't be able to answer back, well, my people from this. Like, I couldn't even for real tell you what part of the diaspora, right? Like, I mean, I can guess, but even saying like, Ghana, like that's just like saying you from the United States and people like, okay, but what state? You know what I'm saying? Like it was that lingering for me with the identity of what would they have been like? What, of course I know we're resilient, like that's a given, but like that royalty aspect, what goods and trades or services, and, my ability to connect, is that because of the line that I came from? And without being able to have that, conversation or those tools that now the two of you have to pull from. So I'm going to start with you, Element, because Shannon was saying that you were, the reason why she opted to go with the test of African ancestry. So, you share what prompted you to take the test, but like from that particular prompting to actually ordering the test and get it, were there some other aspects in there for you? You mentioned the twins, and what did you gain from that experience?
Well, the first thing I decided I wanted to do, I have this series online that I call Black Friday, where I highlight a Black business every Friday. So the very first thing I wanted to do was highlight the fact that this exists, because a lot of people didn't know that you could use your genetics now to determine where you would have been from. So I said, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do it publicly. And that was something that was really personal. And it was a decision that I wanted to make because I wanted to walk people through it. And luckily I did, because Shannon saw it. You know what I mean? So the purpose was fulfilled. If I could inspire one person to do this, I've done my job, just by letting people know that it was an option. And when I put the video out there, I didn't know what was going to happen. I wanted Dr. Gina Page to give me my results so that people could see my reaction right then and there. And it would be a genuine reaction. I told her, even though I know you have them, don't send me the email. Don't tell me anything. I want to hear it when we speak. And for me, I wanted to have that genuine feeling.